All right, and let's go ahead and get started. So again, hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar. I'm your host, Nicole Jones with TechSoup, and today we'll be talking about the 2020 census, which is online for the first time ever this year, posing real hurdles for communities with limited internet access to get connected and to be counted. At the same time, we all have been forced online by COVID-19 and may be yet for months to come. So I'm delighted to have the team from FairCount here with us today who are going to be talking about these issues, but also addressing solutions. FairCount's a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded by Stacey Abrams and has been working with faith-based organizations to ensure they have the tools they need to connect with their community during the crisis. So I'm going to be introducing the team in just a bit, but before we get there, why don't you go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from. You can type that in the audience chat, and I'll read off some of those responses in just a bit. All right, we've got Oakland, California represented. Hello, we've got Boston, we've got Washington, D.C., Eastern Missouri, New York City. Awesome, Long Island. Great, we are well represented here today. All right, so I'm super glad to see so many of you here with us today. We're going to move on to housekeeping. So a reminder that all lines are muted, but you'll be able to ask questions at any time by typing them into the Q&A panel of your webinar. You can also ask questions and share comments in the audience chat. And if you lose your internet connection, no worries. You can just reconnect using the link that was emailed to you. And lastly, you will receive an email with this presentation, recording, and links so you can go back and watch anything that you might have missed and also share this content with others. Sharing is caring. Okay, so there's going to be lots of opportunities to engage with us and each other on this webinar, and some ways to do that are by asking questions in the Q&A section of your webinar. We're also going to have some poll questions, so that's a great place to share your feedback with us, both during the webinar and after the webinar. And lastly, you can tweet at us. We're at TechSoup and use the hashtag TSWebinar. Thanks so much, and your attention and engagement, it really makes a difference to all of us presenters. Thank you. Okay, now that we have that covered, a little bit about TechSoup. We're a global network bridging tech solutions and services for good. You might know TechSoup for its software program, but we're much more than that. We also provide support, training, community, and more to help over 1 million nonprofits in more than 200 countries and territories, and we absolutely love to be your resource partner. And to help make that possible are the 100+ corporate donors and providers of software, hardware, and services who have chosen the TechSoup platform to create and grow impactful in-kind donation programs. You can check out all of our great offerings from our partners by visiting the nonprofit tech marketplace at TechSoup.org/get-product-donations. And Stephen on our webinar team is going to be adding that link and other links along the way in the audience chat. All right, so we're almost getting to today's content. But before, I just want to share this special page that we have at TechSoup.org. It's for nonprofits impacted by COVID-19, and as I've mentioned, TechSoup is committed to equipping your nonprofit with the technology resources you need to meet your mission, to serve your community, and support your staff. So that's why we've compiled these resources, from tools to support remote work, webinars like this one, related blog posts, free courses from TechSoup, and so much more. And we're constantly updating this page with new resources, which we'll share out in the chat as well. So it's a good one to bookmark and share. Okay, at last, now on to introduction. So today we are super lucky to have the FairCount team here with us. starting with Dr. Janine Abrams McLean. She's a vice president at Fair Count, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded by Stacey Abrams. And the goal of Fair Count is to facilitate and ensure a fair and accurate count during the 2020 census while building pathways to continued civic engagement. Now, Janine is a highly skilled researcher with over 15 years of experience designing, managing, and implementing population-based studies and projects. While at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, she applied her expertise in computational biology and population research to advance public health initiatives. She has extensive project management experience as well as work in community organizing. In addition to her work in public health, she's passionate about finding creative ways to tackle community-based issues using both strategic planning and innovative ideas. And we're also joined by Sean Tucker-Allen. She currently serves as a faith coordinator for Fair Count and is a proud native of Atlanta, Georgia. After more than 14 years as an independent contractor, she joined the Stacey Abrams for Governor team as a political coordinator, where she worked with faith leaders throughout Georgia. And following that campaign, she continued her faith-based organizing work for several initiatives. Her organizing approach is an incorporation of her faith-based strategies and experience, along with a strong passion for helping others, and she's especially focused on rural and underserved communities. And then we have the pleasure of welcoming Teresa Thompson. She's a Get Out the Count Faith and Technology Associate at Fair Count. She leads the recruitment and onboarding of faith-based organizations for the Faith and Innovation Resources Program, which provides technological solutions to expand the census outreach and civic engagement of faith-based organizations. She also assists in the development and implementation of faith-based initiatives and events. And we also have our fantastic TechSoup Marketing Associate, Stephen Davidson, who will be assisting you via chat. And with that, it is my pleasure to hand it off to the team at Fair Count. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Nicole. This is Janine Abrams McLean, and it is such a pleasure and honor to be here today to speak to all of you about faith organizations in the 2020 census, connecting communities through the pandemic and beyond. That's a long title, but essentially what we're going to talk to you about is why the census is so important and how Fair Count, as well as some of the faith communities or faith organizations that we've been working with over the past year or so, have been able to pivot and thrive during this pandemic. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started by giving you a little bit of a background about Fair Count and an overview of the work that we do. So Fair Count was founded by Stacey Abrams, who is a politician, lawyer, and author who served as the minority leader for the Georgia House of Representatives, and she was also the first Black female majority party gubernatorial nominee in the history of the United States. She also happens to be my second oldest sister and was responsible for recruiting myself and our CEO, Rebecca DeHart, who is the former she's the former executive director of the Democratic Party of Georgia. Stacey recruited the two of us to start Fair Count about a year ago to ensure that we got a fair and accurate count in the census in Georgia and the nation. And so our mission, again, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We want to make sure that every person in the nation is seen, heard, and counted for a fair and accurate census. And we also want to use the census as a catalyst to build civic engagement pathways, or pathways to continued civic engagement in marginalized and disenfranchised communities. Our approach, we do field organization, we utilize ingenuity, partnership, and hard work. Some of the things that we do are we leverage a network of locally based trained organizers who have experience entering hard-to-count communities. And while our organizers were on the ground and in the field prior to the pandemic, they have continued to do important and impactful work through phone and text banking, as well as virtual events to make sure that we continue to engage some of the hardest to reach communities. We develop effective digital and technological infrastructure to increase online participation and to provide access within hard-to-count communities with limited internet accessibility. We partner with complete count committees, community and faith-based leaders and organizations and other stakeholders to make sure that everyone is seen and heard. We support the development and dissemination of community-specific advertising and promotional materials via social media, radio, television, and local newspapers. And we build and deploy rapid response teams to areas in need. And this will occur during the non-response follow-up period, which I'll talk about in a little while, to make sure that we can do localized, enhanced efforts. So I want to talk to you now about the 2020 census. What is it and what is really at stake for our communities across the country? The 2020 census will direct roughly $1.5 trillion annually to communities through over 300 federal programs. So $1.5 trillion every year for the next decade will depend on whether we get an accurate count this year. And these programs impact education through federal Pell Grants and Title I grants to schools and Head Start programs. It impacts health care through Medicaid and Medicare, WIC, SNAP, CHIP, disability assistance, and other programs. And the census count impacts infrastructure and even more. So we're talking about highway planning and construction, foster care funding, environmental protection, wildlife recovery, and disaster recovery. All of these things through over 300 federal programs are impacted by the census count. And that is why we have to make sure that it is fair and accurate. The census also informs businesses and opportunities for economic development. It is the basis for voting rights enforcement and civil rights legislation, and it provides population benchmarks for nearly every other government effort. So when we think about the pillars of democracy, we can think about the census, voting, and redistricting, and they all count to make sure that we all have fair representation in our communities. You've heard me say hard to count. I said that a little while earlier. The hard to count communities, or the term hard to count, is a term that is used by the Census Bureau to describe communities that are historically or have been historically undercounted in the census. We know that in 2010, white homeowners were overcounted in the census, and several other communities were undercounted, or populations were undercounted. Those include young children, highly mobile persons, racial and ethnic minorities, non-English speakers, those experiencing homelessness, undocumented persons, the LGBTQ community, and people who don't live in traditional housing. And so these are communities that, and we have to remember that the census counts everyone living in the United States, not every citizen. And so we have to make sure that every single person who is here gets counted, particularly those that have been undercounted in the past. So when we look at specific populations, particularly racial and ethnic groups, we can take that money that I talked about in the earlier slide, that $1.5 trillion, and we can estimate what will be lost to communities if certain communities are undercounted. So the Urban Institute did an entire study where they estimated just that. But these estimates were done before the pandemic, so they don't take into account the impacts of the pandemic on particularly vulnerable populations. So the Urban Institute estimated that 2.2 million Hispanic and Latinx people could be missed in the census. And when you think about, or when you take into account the amount of federal funding that counts for every person that is counted in the census, so for instance, in Georgia, every person brings to the state between $2,300 and $3,600 every year in federal funding. And that value differs in all of the states. So when you take those values together, if the undercount of 2.2 million Hispanic or Latinx people occurs, then across the country, communities will lose $4.1 billion in federal funding every year for the next 10 years. When you look at the Black population, 1.7 million Black people are at risk of being undercounted in the census, potentially costing $3.3 billion in federal funding every year. For the AAPI community, we're looking at 305,000 people, which corresponds to $590 million in lost federal funding. And for the Alaskan, Indian, and Native American populations, there could be an undercount planned on doing. I'm going to give you an outline of the census timeline in the wake of the pandemic. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the census has been extended from July 31st to October 31st. So that means that we have a little bit more time to get everyone counted, but we don't need to wait. The longer we wait, the census counts everyone who is living at a household as of April 1st. And so the longer we wait, the harder it is to remember who is living with us on that date. And so we encourage everyone, even though we have time until October 31st, to go ahead and complete the census now. Census takers or enumerators will begin visiting homes, and they will be following public health and safety guidelines they'll begin visiting homes that haven't responded to the 2020 census between August 11th and October 31st to help make sure that everyone is counted. Again, these are people that will knock on your doors to make sure that you are counted. But we also need to make sure, if you have some fears of answering your door, whether for whatever reason that may be, the way that you keep people from coming to your door is to answer the census on your own. If you are not comfortable with the idea of someone coming to your door wearing a mask, which is there to keep you safe, but if you are uncomfortable with that, then the way to avoid that is to answer the census now so that you don't have to worry about someone coming to your door. Census takers will count people experiencing homelessness at shelters, soup kitchens, and outdoors, et cetera, between September 22nd and 24th. And this is something, when we talk to members of the faith community, something that comes up a lot because we know that faith leaders work a lot of outreach is with the homeless population. And so this is where you can play a role in this by working with the Census Bureau to let them know where people are. And then lastly, tomorrow, after this, hopefully you'll be super duper energized to participate and to get everybody in your community counted. And so tomorrow is a National Census Day of Action. And so we are encouraging people to take the census online, by phone, or by using the paper form that should have come in the mail. So why are faith leaders important? I can answer this question personally. My parents are both retired United Methodist ministers, and I know personally and through my entire lifetime of being involved in the church, the importance of faith leaders, not just the pastors or the imams or the rabbis, but understanding the people that are actually leading in the church outside of the just the leaders in the church. And so in 2010, another survey estimated that there were 344,000 congregations in the U.S. across a variety of different religions, representing approximately 150 million attendees. Faith leaders are trusted community members whose leadership is essential, one, to calming anxieties during these uncertain times, and two, to stressing the importance of the 2020 census, to our recovery from this pandemic. Because as we recover in 2021, the information from the census, as well as some of the funding that is directed by census numbers for recovery, will be needed so that we can continue to recover from the pandemic. So by engaging your members, you have the opportunity to encourage them to reach out to their families, friends, neighbors, coworkers, everyone, to make sure that we are all counted. And so with that, we are going to have our first poll question. And this poll question is asking, how many of you have completed the 2020 census? The first option is, yes, I have completed it, and I am ready to encourage others to participate. The second option is, no, I haven't done it yet, but I still have some questions. And please put those questions that you have into the chat box. And then the last question is, not yet, but I'll do it immediately after this call by going to my2020census.gov. And with that, once the poll has closed, I will turn it over to Teresa Thompson.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in that poll. And we will move on now to share about some technology resources for faith-based organizations. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Dr. Janine, for the introduction. Thank you to Nicole and Chris and TechSoup for the opportunity to share today. And a big thank you to each of you who are on the call today and taking time to hear about Fair Count, our mission, our work, and our resources. We appreciate you joining us today. My name is Teresa Thompson, and I am the Faith and Technology Associate here at Fair Count. Today, we want to share with you some of the resources and strategies that we are using to ensure for a fair and accurate count in the 2020 census. On today's webinar, I will be sharing about one of the programs that we have. This program provides free church management software to faith institutions, and my faith team member, Sean Tucker Allen, will share about our faith toolkit, and she will share about some strategies that we have used during this COVID-19 pandemic. So let's get started. At Fair Count, I get to spend my days sharing and interacting with faith leaders about our FAIR program. Let me share with you about the Faith and Innovation Resources program that we have. The FAIR program is a partnership with Fund 2 Foundation that is designed to organize and mobilize churches for the 2020 census and continued civic engagement. Churches enrolled in the FAIR program will be provided with free access to commercially available church management software for at least 4 years. So I will repeat that. Churches enrolled in this FAIR program will be provided with free access to commercially available church management software for the next 4 years. The FAIR program allows us to build a working partnership with faith leaders. As Dr. Janine has said, we understand that you are the trusted voices that can reach into your communities and congregations. Faith leaders, especially in our Hard to Count communities, with this FAIR program and the church management software that we're sharing with you today, you have a tremendous opportunity to completely redefine your ministry in the wake of this COVID-19 pandemic. Enrolled churches will aid Fair Count's efforts by sharing information about the 2020 census with their members. The resources that we will be sharing include sample bulletin inserts, emails, text messages, and those messages will be emailed directly to the faith leader and admin, who will then share that information with your members. This creates our partnership. This partnership allows us to educate everyone, all the members, about the importance of the 2020 census and encourage everyone to get counted. So let me share with you some of the benefits of our church management software. And as I do that, let me first take a moment and share with you that my husband is a senior pastor at a United Methodist Church here in Georgia. When I joined Fair Count about 4 months ago, I was given the FAIR program as my task here. I immediately took it to our pastor and our leadership team and introduced the FAIR program and Faith app. Even though we already had something like this that we were paying for, we understood that we could take the savings for the next 4 years and implement that into another program or just use it for our general budget. So we took the opportunity and joined the FAIR program. So today, before I share these benefits, you have that great opportunity as well to save money and get a great tool and resource in these unpredictable times that we are in right now. So some of the benefits of the church management software is that it will securely digitize your membership roles. You can quickly look up and contact people. You can create groups, and you can easily connect with those groups by sending out text messages or emails. You also have the opportunity to track member giving and offer online and text giving to your members. What I found out in working with the churches that I have been working with, they did not have a plan to continue to receive offerings and tithes for their ministry work. And when they received the church management software, they were able to get set up in the middle of this pandemic that we were thrown into, and the ability to continue to receive that money to continue the ministry. You also have the opportunity to organize and advertise events, virtual events, in-person events when we ever return back to our in-person services. You can create forms and automation to reduce inefficiencies and improve communication. If I had the opportunity to speak to each of you and ask you one thing that you wish you could do with your members, it would be to communicate more effectively. And this software allows you to do that. In addition to sharing the benefits, I also wanted to highlight some of the key areas of the Faith app that will allow you as a faith institution to communicate effectively and with ease in your congregation. So on the screen, you can see a profile of a member. That's me, in the church management software program. You will have this profile for each member, and you can customize the fields for your congregation. That's a plus and a benefit. To the right of that, you can see a sample screenshot of how you can easily email and text your members by just a click of a button. You compose the message and click send. You can easily email your entire congregation, no matter the size, 2 people or 202 people. You can communicate with them easily and quickly. Another screenshot I wanted to highlight and show you is the online giving and text features. You will have the opportunity to continue to receive your tithes and offerings, pledges to campaigns that you had set up. Everything will be in one place. If you didn't have electronic or digital ways to receive these offerings by enrolling in the FAIR program, you can start today and have those opportunities and ways to be able to accept those contributions. As I stated, in these unpredictable times of this COVID-19 pandemic that we're in, you stand ready to continue to receive money for ministry. So, before I get ready to close out my portion of the presentation, I wanted to share with you how the FAIR program has allowed other churches and faith institutions who were thrown into the midst of pre-COVID-19 and had to shift and be able to continue ministry virtually. The Faith app was able to help them do that. The Faith app allowed them to continue to send messages of hope, communicate in the same manner as they did in Sunday service, and they were able to send out text messages and emails about their new virtual service times or how they were going to be offering services. This was a way for the faith institutions to continue to thrive. Let me share one testimony about a masjid in Chicago that I worked with. During our training, as we were going through the steps of how to get set up, he effectively went ahead and set up his online and text to give during the training. As we were getting to that portion of the training, he had already set it up, and he had already received his first contribution because he sent it out during the training that we were going in. That's how easily and quickly you can set this up and start receiving monies if that's something that you don't have currently. So know that other congregations have used this app and been effective during this COVID-19 pandemic to help us continue to get the count out. So, how does your faith institution enroll in this FAIR program and partner with FAIR Count to continue to get 100% of everyone counted? It's easy as 1, 2, 3. So first of all, you will email faith@FairCount your membership role. We need your membership information that includes first and last name, email, phone, and date of birth. We will take that information and securely get it uploaded to the church management software and finish the onboarding process for you, so you don't even have to worry about that. After we get you onboarded, we will then have a live virtual training with you to ensure you and your admin and anyone else that will be working in the software knows the ins and outs and how to get started with working with the software. So it's really as simple, as easy as 1, 2, 3. Email me at faith@faircount.org, and I can get you started today. I'm looking forward to connecting with each of you, and we want to make sure that you can partner with us to help us get 100% of the count. So now you get to take the opportunity to let us know if you may be interested in the FAIR program by completing poll question number 2. I hope you're ready to answer this question. Are you interested in the FAIR program? So the 3 options that we have listed that will help us understand your interest in this program is I have a hard to count congregation and I would like to learn more. I will visit www.faircount.org. The second response is I have a hard to count congregation and I'm ready to sign up. I will be emailing you at faith@faircount.org. And I hope that's all of you that will be doing that. And finally, I do not have a hard to count congregation, but I will share this information with my colleagues who are hard to count communities. And we certainly appreciate you doing that. So we'll give you just a few moments to make your choice and your selection. And as that is happening and as you're finishing up that poll question, I will now pass the baton to my sister in Christ, Sean Tucker Allen, who will share more information about additional resources for faith institutions. Sean, I'm passing it on to you.
Thank you so much, Teresa and everyone. We will just wait to see. I was thinking we're going to wait. We're going to scroll on through. So let me start again by saying thank you so much to Teresa and a big thank you to Nicole and Chris and everyone else that has helped us to set this up. We are truly blessed and excited to be with you this afternoon. Thank you to everyone on the call, as Teresa and Janine have articulated, especially to our faith leaders. Again, we appreciate every single thing that you're doing for your communities across this country. My name is Sean Tucker Allen, and I have the honor of serving as Fair Count's Faith Coordinator. And I am here today to further just elaborate on some of the resources Teresa mentioned, and also just to offer some tips on how you can enrich your ministry and expand your outreach. So leaders of faith, before we jump into this, I want you to know just right off the top that we at Fair Count, we know that this moment of uncertainty that I've stressed and Janine has stressed and Teresa's stressed, we understand that it has put even more onto your plate, and that you are, in addition to just personally adapting to this new normal, we know that you're responsible for your ministry on top of that. So we want you to know today that we look to just bring you some tips and resources for growth in this season. What we recognize, like you, is that despite everything that is unclear around us, there is one thing that is absolutely clear and certain, and that is our faith. So the approach that we have brought to you today is one that is rooted not only in that faith, but also our optimism, because there's no way that Janine or Teresa or myself could profess ourselves to be people of faith if we were not, in fact, confident that better days were ahead. So faith leaders, we say to you today, we say to you in this moment, to find new ways, come out of all of this better and renewed, and take this opportunity to grow and try new things. The faith app that Teresa mentioned. Staying connected just with your congregation because your members are looking to you. So offer them the best that you can so they can grow along with you and your place of worship. So now that we've gotten all of that intro out of the way and we're talking about information, let's dive right into this and just talk a little bit more about the faith toolkits that we have. So I am very blessed to say that we at Faircount have crafted 3 faith kits internally. And as you can see, there are 3 versions. There is an all-faith version, which applies to everyone. And then we also were blessed to have a Spanish version. But as you also see on the screen, there's a Black church toolkit. So I want to take a little bit of a moment before we get deeper into the dive of the toolkits to just talk about why it is that we felt that there was a need to have a Black church toolkit. So Janine did a really great job of explaining what our Hard to Count communities are and who is at risk. And if you look closer at the slide that I just put up, you'll see that I took some of her numbers and also why faith leaders are so important and really combined all of that together with that estimated number of predominantly Black churches that were across the country. And you can see that nearly 18,000 Black churches representing 4.9 million worshipers. And you also see further that Black parishioners are active in over 300,000 faith institutions across the country. So simply put, this effort cannot be successful without you, our faith leaders. But I also want to say that let these numbers act as an example also of the power and the reach of the faith community, the reach that you have as a faith leader. So now that we've talked about that, let's take a dive into the toolkits and just see some of the things we have. So for starters, let me just start by saying we don't expect you to be a well-versed census expert. That's what we're here for. So we have equipped you with the tools that are going to offer you really a foundational understanding of what the census is. All of the things that Janine discussed in the first half of the presentation, we just dive deep into that and give you an easy read of why it matters to you and your community. And we really take the time to do that because we understand that you are trusted. That is something you've heard the 3 of us articulate today on this call. We understand you're trusted. And so we understand that your people will look to you for the best and the latest information. So, again, we discuss who is at risk, who are those hard-to-count populations that Janine mentioned. But we also discuss how to message them and how to also combat misinformation and disinformation. This is something that has been a challenge for us in 2020. So we offer guidance on that and also talking points. We also have guidelines on reopening church as it relates to COVID-19, and we base those guidelines on clear and accurate information. So we feel free as you step into that decision of whether or not you reopen to let at Maddie Richland Baptist Church down in Pineview, Georgia. Pastor Newberry, one of my favorites. She received one of our installation hubs a month before COVID-19 hit. And she went on, as you can see, to, for the very first time, stream her Easter service, stream a service for the very first time. But more than that, she used her install technology to educate some of the neighborhood children who had no resources to continue school during the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, here was an example of a pastor in a very rural community just finding ways to stay connected, not only to her people, but to in turn bless the community with her technology. So we say to you, find ways to grow and to give back in this season. Janine mentioned that tomorrow is National Census Day. So one of the things that I would recommend is to have a dedicated day of action. You can have this dedicated day any day. But tomorrow, why not start now? You can do this as simple as a day to just focus on giving back and increasing the count. Let Pastor Newberry be an example of that. You set aside a weekend or tomorrow, open up your Wi-Fi. Give access to your parking lot. Just announce on your marquee that your church will allow anyone to pull up to the parking lot and access the Wi-Fi to complete their 2020 census. It's that simple, and it's a great way for you to give back to the community. I also recommend making the census a part of your ministry and talking about it in your announcement, in your worship services. For my Christian faith leaders out there, and for any other faith leaders out there, we know that the birth of Christ is centered around census. So using that scripture, using those worship services to just sort of double down on that message, and your social media sites, e-newsletters. Again, you're seeing all of these things are connected. We're talking about them on every platform of how you are using every single avenue you can to just put this information out there, because it counts for your community. It counts for your members. So again, just also talking with other faith leaders in your network. I cannot stress again that not only is your platform your congregation, but reaching out to those other clergy members, those imams, those pastors, those rabbis, and encouraging them to get on board with you. And also just sharing our Fair Count resources. So one of the things I want to talk about is that since the pandemic, the faith team, we have been blessed to travel virtually all over this country, just pushing out this message to faith leaders like yourself, really stressing the importance of the census and why we need you. We can't do it without you. And I'm proud to say that Teresa and I are only a fraction of the work that's done to push this out. Fair Count, our teammates all across Fair Count are doing great things. And I'd love for you to check us out to help us spread the word and take a look at some of our virtual events. But I also encourage you to check out these virtual offerings, because they offer a demonstration of how even in the midst of adversity, we at Fair Count are still finding our own ways to reach those that are most at risk. And I want you to check them out, because what we ask of you, we also want you to know we ask that of ourselves, that every single day we work hard as a staff to keep finding those ways to ensure that every single person is counted. Because what all of us know on this call today is that every single one of us is equal in the eyes of the Creator. Therefore, every single one of us deserves to be counted. I want you to remember that there is dignity in being counted. So, faith leaders, I hope that everything that we're bringing you is just further demonstration that we are all in this together and that we will push forward together. So we encourage you to lean on us, lean on our resources, stay connected to us. Before COVID-19, Fair Count was in the midst of a statewide bus tour that subsequently had to be postponed, all of our stops, but we didn't give up. The same way we're asking you not to give up. We knew that it was vital now more than ever for our at-risk communities to be counted. And we also knew that some of them would be in even more dire situations in a post-COVID-19 world, just like Janine articulated earlier. So I am proud to say to you that our bus tour is back, it's virtual, and it's better than it was the first time. In fact, our very first stop was a bilingual webinar with some of our Latinx partners. And I encourage anyone out there that may have Spanish-speaking congregations to use that as a guide to how maybe you can do that in your community. Lean on us. Share any of our stops. A recording of that event and all other events can be found on our Facebook page, our Fair Count Facebook page, and you can also visit us at faircount.org/BBT for virtual bus tour to find out more. During the pandemic, we also launched Sisters for the Census. This was a joint civic engagement campaign with Fair Count and the National Council of Negro Women. And this was done to focus on a fair count of Black women and children and families. And we also have our Black Men Count Complete Count Initiative, which focuses on ensuring that Black men, the most undercounted, are represented accurately in this 2020 census count. This initiative is co-chaired by community leaders all across the state, including our very own Bishop Reginald T. Jackson, who is the prelate of the 6th Episcopal District of the AME Church. Bishop Jackson has not only declared that all of the AME churches in Georgia will be counted, but he's also leading a national effort to encourage other faith leaders like yourself across this country to do the same thing. So we encourage you today to stand with us, to help us push this message out, to know that you can do that with so many of our resources that are found in our toolkit. I want to let you know that because we made some last-minute additions to the toolkit, it will not be ready until a little bit later this afternoon, and that is intentional. Because even as early as yesterday, we wanted to make sure that we have it packed with everything you may need. So we did another dive right before this webinar to just make it even better and stronger for you. So I will leave you with to find out more about every single thing that I've mentioned and Janine's mentioned and Teresa's mentioned, to find us at faircount.org and blackmencount.org, sistersforthecensus.org. And visit our Facebook site and our Twitter and Instagram accounts. And you can also email Teresa and me at faith@faircount.org. Again, if you're interested in that wonderful Faith app, which I know you are, because you are ready to be a Maddie Richland, like Pastor Newberry down there in rural Georgia, email us at faith@faircount.org so you can pick up that Faith app. Because what we all know is that if you don't get counted, you simply will not count. So I will now launch you into our final poll question, and then I will kick it over for a brief Q&A. So the final poll question is, will you commit to doing one or more of the following? Signing up for the FAIR program if you have a hard-to-count congregation. Sharing information about available resources with other faith leaders in your network. Visiting faircount.org to download one of our faith toolkits. Spreading the word about the importance of the 2020 census on social media. And all of the above. So we'd just like you to take a few moments and complete that. And then we will launch into a Q&A that I will turn it over to Janine.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Sean.
We're seeing some responses. Yeah, just wanted to make sure we're seeing some responses, and it's really encouraging to see that people are answering all of the above. Majority of people have answered all of the above in terms of what they commit to doing post-webinar here. So, yeah, just wanted to make sure you saw that. And I'll hand it off to you, Janine, and thank you so much, Sean.
Great. Thank you so much to Sean and Teresa and to Nicole for all the help that we've received today during this webinar. And we do have a couple of questions. The first question that was entered was, can you say more about traditional housing? Many in my community have no P.O. boxes, but not front door mail delivery. Does that count as non-traditional housing? The situation that you are describing, those communities or people that live in those types of communities should have received, they are most likely a part of what the Census Bureau refers to as the update leave operation, which is where census workers will hand deliver census packets that will have a paper form as well as information about how to complete the census online or by telephone. And so because of the pandemic, the update leave operation was suspended. But as of, I think, last week, close to 80% of the households in that operation have received their packets. And so I know that they're continuing to wrap that operation up. But another example of non-traditional housing. And if you'd like to learn more, there's actually a wonderful children's book called We Count that really goes through a lot of situations that detail some of the non-traditional houses or housing situations, as well as different questionable situations where you might be confused about who to count in your household. And one of the examples given in this book is about a family that moves into a garage of another family that had been converted. And even though everyone lives at that one address, they're technically two separate households. And so in that case, both households would be counted at that address. And so it's hard, when you don't have because the garage is not a separate address for the Census Bureau to send the information, then that particular family may not have gotten it. But if they communicate with the people that they live with, then everyone is counted. And so this is a wonderful book that explains it. It's a children's book, but it's really good for adults too, to see some of the situations that we might face when thinking about who to count. So thank you, Kimberly, for that question. The second question is there a way for congregations to keep track of members who have been counted in the census through the back end of the app? And Teresa, do you want me to answer that, or do you want to go ahead and take that one?
I can take that one, Janine.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not a way unless, we can if they self-report to you. So if they say, if you create a poll within your church or a form and ask people to check off if they completed their census, then yes, you can be able to see who may have already completed it by you initiating that information. But as far as the census and the census organization, the federal organization, we cannot tap into their resources with the app and able to see who has already completed the census. But you can do a form inside the app, and you can also maybe create a little healthy competition and put groups together or families and do a competition and have them complete the form once they have completed the census. So that's, a couple of ways that you can find out from people in your congregation who may have completed the census already. Anything to add on that one, Janine?
No, just to reiterate that census data are private and that they are not shared, that they are that the data that people supply is safe. So it's a good thing that we can't tap into the Census Bureau to get it, because they do a wonderful job of keeping people's information private and safe for 72 years.
Wow.
And so I'll turn it, I didn't know, Nicole, if there were any other questions.
Yep, I see a couple more questions here. And one is on how long does it take to onboard onto the Faith app? And, how many people on my team in my congregation should learn how to use it?
Okay, I can take that one, Nicole. This is Teresa. So if you get me, once you email us the information, the turnaround time has been about maybe 2 to 4 hours that we can get that information uploaded and onboarded into the Faith app. And once we get that done, you will receive an email from us that says, welcome to the church management software program. Sign up, and once I get that notification you signed up, I will then reach out to you and we can set up a training. So if you could have it done by tomorrow if you send it to me today, if that answers that portion of the question. And Nicole, what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, like how many people on my team should know how to use it or should be trained on how to use it?
Okay. So In the virtual training, we will go over that information, but my suggestion is I would do no more than 3 people with all access. Inside this software, you'll be able to limit different permissions of access to everyone who uses the software, including all the way down to all of your members who are in your congregation. But we suggest that there are at least 2 people, no more than 3, who have all access, because once someone makes a change, that change is kind of a permanent change. You have to work to undo that. So we suggest 3 people that are admins and have all access, and then other people are given different permissions and access to the system to be able to use it effectively across your congregation. So we can train as many people as you see fit and give them those permissions during the training.
Great. Thanks for that, and thank you again to Janine, Teresa, Sean, for your time today. And here's your last slide. Any final words before we close out?
Yes, this is Janine. I just want to thank, first, a thank you to TechSoup for Nicole and your team for providing us with this platform so that we can make sure that everyone is counted by utilizing the strength and the influence of faith leaders around this country. And the second thing is get counted. This is something, again, that I really try to stress is that we're not, when we talk about being counted and being seen and being heard, it's not just for today. We are talking about representation and access to what communities deserve. You pay your taxes, you deserve to get this funding. And this is not just for now, we're talking about the future. And so but we only get one chance every 10 years to get a complete count. And we didn't do it right the last time. And so this is our chance to do it right this time. And we need everyone's help. So please get counted today. Go to my2020census.gov. If you want to get involved, please go to faircount.org. We will find something for you to do no matter where you are located. You don't have to be in Georgia. We have partnerships around the country. We will find some way for you to get involved. And, yes, just get counted today and then go and tell, I'll say, 15 other people to get counted too. And so thank you again for joining us, and go get counted. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you so much, Janine. And we're going to include all the resources, all the links that you saw today in a follow-up email. So look out for that about a day after this webinar ends here. So we'll include the slides as well and a recording of the webinar so you can go back, watch anything you might have missed, and yes, share this. Share this with 15 people. It is so important, and we're so grateful for all the work that Fair Count is doing around this incredibly important issue that will impact our future generations. So thank you again to our presenters. And I just want to end here with some upcoming TechSoup webinars that we have. We have one this week on how to develop a nonprofit website strategy for the road ahead. And the following week, we've got one on how nonprofits can go digital and stay digital with Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, some really cool tools like how to use the scanning app on your phone and just, make your paperless projects essentially be much more seamless and in the cloud. So look for that one. And all of our past webinars, you can see any replays by going to TechSoup.org/community.events. That's where you'll also see all of our upcoming webinars where you can register as well. And with that, we will close out. Thank you so much. Please complete our post-event survey. That's going to pop up when you close out this window. And we'll see you next time on a TechSoup webinar. Goodbye to the Fair Count team. Thanks again. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.